Often in programs, you need to store data so that you can retrieve it again next time the program is loaded. For example, if you're playing a game and you want to save it, you want to be able to come back to your progress after closing the game and opening it back up. So today we're going to be looking at files, specifically text files, so that we can see how to use them in that way. First, let's think about how we would open a text file. Let's say we had a text file on our desktop. The first thing we would need to do is double click or open the file. And then after that, we can either read the file or we can write to it. And then after that, we need to make sure to close it. In Python, we do something very similar. I take this out. The first thing we will need to do is say file equals open, and then the name of the file, so let's just call it test.text.txt, and let's actually just create test.txt. Say this is line 1 and this is line 2. Save that and just leave it there for now. Then we can do some stuff to it here, and we need to make sure to close it afterwards. Now, before we continue, I just want to say that this method of opening files isn't very good because, first of all, what if we forget to close the file? And also, if we have an error in between where we open it and where we close it, we're also not going to reach the file.close. So when you don't close your files in programming, this can be quite bad. Now, there's an argument to say, well, Python does a lot for you, and I don't actually know if it will sort everything out for you. But regardless, there is a better way of doing it, and it involves less writing anyway. So we're going to be using what's called a context manager, which is a fancy name for the with statement. So what we want to do is with open our file name, so test.txt, and then as file. And then we want a colon, which means that we're going to put something afterwards here. And now what we can do is, actually for now I'm going to put pass. So pass is a keyword that just means do nothing. If we were to not include it, where we've got this colon here, it's expecting an indented block, but because we don't want anything there, we have to put in pass. Okay, so now this is a bit strange. Earlier, we had file equals open test.txt. We had file, our variable, on the left, equals, and then the expression on the right, which is what we're used to. Whereas here, we've got it the other way around. I'm not sure exactly why we have it the other way around, but essentially what we are doing here with the with statement is we are keeping the file open for as long as we are in this code block, indentation. And as soon as we go to here, we no longer have access to the file. Okay, so now let's try to read the file now that we've got it open. So before we do that, I've remembered that VS Code does something a little bit silly. Where I've got this file structure here, where I've got loads of different folders for all of the different episodes, I actually need to add 08 underscore files slash test.txt. Usually, I think it will just look for everything in the local folder. But since I've got loads of different folders open, it's for some reason using the wrong one. But regardless, you can use the local name for the name of a file inside your folder, or you can use like the whole name. So from your C drive, etc. And if you want to find your full file name, you can go to File Explorer. But for now, we're going to stick with this, and we are going to say we want to read all of the lines, and we want to put all of the separate lines into a separate element or index, sorry, of a list. So let's say lines equals, and let's do file dot read dot split lines. Now this is my preferred method of reading from files. There are many ways to do it. I'll show you a few more examples shortly, but this is how I like to do it. So now if we come underneath here and we do print lines like that, save and run, you can see that we've got, this is line 1 and this is line 2. Here are some of the other ways that are common for opening files. So we've got just file.read, got file.readLine, we've got file.readLines, and then we've got my preferred method, which is file.read.splitlines. And if we run the program here, we can see some of the differences. I'm just printing out the results from all of these. So just normal read will print out exactly what we see. We've got, this is line 1, and then we've got an invisible line break character here, which just means that we go on to the next line. And so that's why the and this is line 2 isn't just along here. And then next we've got read line. So what a read line will do is it will take the first line and then give that back to the program. And then next time we call read line, so for example, if I was to do print file.readLine and run this, we've got, this is line 1, that's been output to the screen, and then we are returning the second line here. So the more times you use read line, the more lines it will go through. So if you just use it normally, it will just give you the first line. Let's go back to that one. Because I tried to run from the text file. Okay. So yeah, now we're just getting the first line. We're also getting the line break, but we're not getting the second line. So now let's move on to the next one, which is read lines. And this will just give us a list with all of the lines, but it includes this invisible line break character. And I don't really like to have that in my lists when I'm reading. So this file.read.splitlines is one of the ways that you can return a list with each individual, like a string with each individual line, without the line break characters in between. Okay, now let's move on to writing. Let's first of all change this to test2. We want to write to a different file. Now, in order to go into write mode, we have to add comma to this open section here. And if I scroll down on this bit, we can see we've got loads of different codes. So R here is the default. If I just put in an R, that means that we are in read mode, which is the default, which means we don't actually have to put it. If I open this back up, we can also see there are a load of other options. We've got write mode, and we've got append mode. We've also got a plus, which is read and write. We've also got some others like binary. But for now, we're just going to focus on read, write, and append. So we're currently in read, but we want to go into write. And we'll also talk about the difference between write and append, of course. So instead of reading from the file, what we're going to want to do is we want to file.write, and let's say hello for now. If we go ahead and run this, we don't currently have a test2.txt. This should be. So what it's going to do, because we're in write mode, is it's actually going to create it for us because we don't have one already. If we did have it already, then we'd override it. We just run this for now. We should see we get test2 popping up, and we've just got hello inside it. So now let's change this to goodbye. And if we run this again, we will have overridden what we had before. We no longer have that hello, we just have goodbye. And sometimes this is what you want, sometimes it's not. This is where you would use write, but if I change this back to hello, don't know why I put a W at the end there. Now if we were to do with open, and I'm just going to copy all of this, and if I go into append mode, what this means is, and let's change this to space goodbye. This means that instead of overriding something, we're just going to add it to the end. We do this here. We've got hello, which we put in with the first opening when we opened in write mode, and then we've got space goodbye, which we put in with append mode. There are a lot of fancy things you can do with files, such as insertion. You can insert a new value into a specific point. A lot of that is just going to come to exploration because it's quite niche. Some of the functions you can do within files, you're probably not going to need them. But once you've got the basics down, you'll be able to research what you need and when you need to use it. But that's all for this video. Next video, we're going to be talking about modules.